Well, good afternoon, everybody. Today is Wednesday of Holy Week, and we are continuing our Holy Week live stream devotionals together as we march our way towards Good Friday and towards Easter Sunday morning. And so, on Wednesday of Holy Week, it is April the 1st, AD 33. And coincidentally enough, today is April the 1st as well, 2026. So, for the texts for today are Luke 21, 37 and 38, Luke 22, verses 1 and 2, Matthew 26, and Mark 14, verses 1 and 2. And so, as Jesus is teaching his disciples and going about his business, another story is taking place inside the walls of the city of Jerusalem. The members of the Sanhedrin, the Jewish religious body, are having their own internal, intense conversation on how to get rid of Jesus once and for all. You have to remember, these are not two-dimensional stick figures. These are not just people on a characters on a page, but these are real flesh and blood people who are making a decision to do something extraordinarily wicked and heinous. This day of Holy Week really is a pivot point for the religious leaders, after which there is no return. And so as Holy Week continues on, these Jewish religious leaders will come to the forefront of the story that God is writing here in history, in the life and ministry of Jesus. And so let's ask a couple questions here. What are their motivations and what are they trying to accomplish? Well, who are the religious leaders? It seems that many of Jesus' opponents were in what's called the Sanhedrin. That was the ruling council of the Jews. In fact, there were 71 members of the Sanhedrin. The idea of 70 probably began with Moses when he appointed 70 sub-elders to organize a government for the Israelites as they wandered through the wilderness. The number 70 stuck. And so their council was made up of Pharisees and Sadducees, two important groups of the day. The Pharisees were the more conservative, more literal Bible interpreters, and the Sadducees were a little more loose with it, if we want to kind of have a framework of maybe what the differences are. The Sadducees didn't believe in like a literal resurrection, for example. And so, but the two important groups, and the leader, so the 70 plus one, the leader would be the high priest himself. And in this day, the time of Jesus, it would be a guy named Joseph Caiaphas. And so often they would meet once a month in Jerusalem to discuss important matters, to vote on things. And then on top of that, they would meet on holy days, like the Passover festival. And so whenever voting took place within the body of the Sanhedrin, they let the youngest member of the Sanhedrin vote first. That way, he would not be pressured or swayed by the more senior members. They can get more of an honest vote out of him. And so the final decision at the end would be cast by the high priest. And so during Holy Week, the Sanhedrin meets to figure out what we're going to do about this Jesus. What we're going to do about Jesus. The Sanhedrin convenes together. It's a big deal. They call a special meeting to talk about this messianic troublemaker in their eyes. And we have to understand that the anger of the Jewish leaders is not something that was limited just to this week. It wasn't that Jesus just upset them this week and they're making a knee-jerk reaction to get rid of Jesus. No. That Jesus, from the very beginning of his ministry, had been upsetting the religious leaders. And in fact, they had been plotting to kill Jesus for a long time. If you can read back in Mark chapter 3, verse 6, that from the very beginning of his ministry, he challenged their authority. And he at least threatened their sense of authority. And so by the time that Christ comes into Jerusalem for the final time on this week of Holy Week, the Jewish leaders have had enough. They have been dealing with Jesus for over 2 years. And they believed that as long as there was blasphemy in the land, Jesus saying that he's God, the Son of God, he's forgiving sins, he's raising people from the dead. As long as there's blasphemy in the land, the true Messiah could not come. And so, Jesus is doubling down on his message, that he's got the authority of God, that he is God, that he can do all the things that God can do. And the religious leaders have had enough of Jesus. They are done with him. And so each step has become increasingly more intense, as they see it. And so as they come to Passover, they think if Jesus is not killed, then there would be perhaps a messianic riot take place. The Romans would destroy the nation. That there is all this tension mounting, and the way to sort of release the pressure is to simply get rid of Jesus and get back to business as normal, business as usual. That was their desire. So let me read to you from Matthew 26. Matthew 26, verse 1 says, when Jesus had finished saying all these things, he said to his disciples, you know that after 2 days the Passover is coming, and the Son of Man will be delivered up to be crucified. Verse 3, then the chief priests and the elders of the people gathered in the palace of the high priest, whose name was Caiaphas. And they plotted together in order to arrest Jesus by stealth and kill him. But they said, not during the feast, lest there be an uproar amongst the people. So in other words, they've got to be stealthy here. Because, again, he's got a lot of supporters at this time, Jesus does. And they're not trying to cause civil unrest, a little civil war here, okay? So they got to be stealthy now. Now they have to attack and get after Jesus from within. Well, check out the text. Matthew 26, verse 14. Then one of the 12, whose name was Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priests and said, what will you give me if I deliver him over to you? And they paid him 30 pieces of silver. By the way, that fulfills an Old Testament prophecy. And from that moment, he sought an opportunity to betray him. So the religious leaders need to find a way to infiltrate. They need to find a way to get at Jesus without causing a big scene. And they find their man in Judas Iscariot. The mind of the religious leaders are made up here. They have decided already to condemn Jesus to death for his claims about being the Son of God, the Savior of the world, and for challenging them and challenging their authority, challenging their teachings, and they plot his downfall. And they've already rendered the verdict. Guilty. Guilty. And tomorrow of Holy Week, Thursday of Holy Week, which sometimes we know as Maundy Thursday, which, by the way, is another significant action-packed, filled day. It's full of important teaching and significance. Thursday of Holy Week, the beginning of the end draws near. For the rest of the week, it's going to get far more weightier and far more serious than we realize. But thankfully, Jesus knows what's about to happen next. And he is prepared to stay the course all the way to the cross. And he does that out of a great love for you and for me. That our salvation is on the line. Jesus knows it, and he is going to stay the course until the end of the line. And so thank you so much for joining us this evening as we look at this important day, Wednesday of Holy Week, and we certainly hope that you will join us tomorrow. Again, you can check these out on YouTube, on our Freedom Fellowship White Pine YouTube page. They are there as well if you want to go back and watch them and check them out there. And we also would invite you to hang out with us, come and worship with us tomorrow evening in the devotions, but also worship with us Friday at our Good Friday service at 7 p.m. So we thank you, and we hope you have a blessed day.